Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Corporal Caitlin Riley. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial, vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first war official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with the front through to the end of the war. The year of this National Memorial Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends mourned their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women did and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant John Henry Wiltch De Melker. John De Melker was born around 1892 near Cape Town in South Africa, one of 6 children born to Gerrit Cornelius and Margaret De Melker. Shortly after John De Melker's birth, his father moved to Australia to find work as a labourer. De Melker, his mother, and his siblings remained in South Africa for another 3 years before the family was reunited in Australia in 1896. They lived in the Traralgon and Thorpedale area of Gippsland in Victoria. In 1902, John's parents divorced. He continued to live with his mother, siblings, and later his stepfather at Traralgon. John De Melker attended local state schools and later worked as a farmer. He was known as a young man of great promise, highly respected and esteemed by all who knew him, and was a founding member of a local sporting association. He also gained valuable military experience by serving in a local light horse militia unit. De Melker enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 26th of August 1914, shortly after the beginning of the First World War, and began training with the newly formed 8th Infantry Battalion. In October, he sailed from Melbourne aboard the transport ship Benalla, and after a brief stopover in Albany, Western Australia, sailed for Egypt. On the 25th of April 1915, De Melker and the 8th Battalion were part in the second wave of troops to land on Gallipoli, at what is now known as Anzac Cove. He remained on Gallipoli until the evacuation in December, and during that time he played part in the heavy fighting at Carithia and Lone Pine. Throughout this period, he served with distinction and was promoted several times. By the time of the Australian evacuation of Gallipoli, he was acting sergeant. This rank was confirmed in February 1916 when he was training in Egypt. Soon after his promotion, De Melker transferred to the newly formed 60th Infantry Battalion, which formed part of the 15th Brigade of the 5th Australian Division. After several months training with this new unit, which was comprised of Gallipoli veterans such as De Melker, mixed with newly arrived recruits, the 60th Battalion sailed from Egypt for France and the war on the Western Front. The 60th Battalion had its first major battle on the 19th of July 1916 at Fromelles in northern France. In this battle, Australian troops of the 5th Division formed the northern pincer of an attack on the salient in the German lines, known as the Sugar Loaf. De Melker and the other men of the battalion moved to their front line starting positions before dawn amid heavy German bombardment of the Australian lines. At 6:45 a.m, they began attacking in a series of 4 waves. Each wave advanced under heavy German artillery, machine gun, and rifle fire. The men of the 60th Battalion got to about 80 metres from the German lines before being cut down, and the battalion suffered terrible casualties. Australian forces lost over 5,500 men, killed, wounded, or missing in this single battle. The 60th Battalion was virtually wiped out. De Melker was last seen advancing across the battlefield with his company under heavy German fire. There were reports that he and his company had advanced about 90 metres before being cut down. It is unlikely that any of them survived. In the chaos of the battle and later fighting, De Melker was originally reported as missing in action, and it would not be until August 1917 that he was officially declared to have been killed in action at Fromelles. John De Melker was 34 years old. With no known grave, his name is listed on the VC Corner Australian Cemetery and Memorial at Fromelles, which commemorates 1,100 soldiers who died in that terrible battle. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the VC Corner Memorial at Fromell is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant John Henry Wiltch De Melker, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.